Yes, hello, my name's Stuart, Unrepentant Atheist. Thank you very much for tuning in. The call came into the line some 6 months ago. John calling in from Texas, and he called in with the kind of interesting idea that, well, he said that he believes in the Bible, so he believes in the God of the Bible, that this is an actual God, but he also has something abstract, a conceptualization of God, like a kind of metaphorical representation of the actual God, which he claims in some way is truer than the actual thing. Now, we've had people like Jordan Peterson talking about, God as a metaphor, something, foundational and ultimate, which we can use in an abstract way in order to help us ground reality in something secure. We've had Christians like John Crosnan saying that the resurrection is just a metaphor, and it seems to me that he probably also thinks that God is a metaphor. But John is actually saying that God is not just a metaphor, but there is an actual real God as well, but that the metaphor is somehow truer than the actual God. Matt has taken exception to this and saying, well, you're confusing the map for the place. The place is the truest representation there could be of itself, and the map is just a copy. So let's pick up on that, but then something interesting comes later on in the call. We're going to listen to it.
Of Christianity that is an identifiable doctrine, that's a denomination, that's fine. You can make up your own, or somebody else can. But when you say that you believe that you believe the Bible is true, but God is an abstraction, you don't know the fucking Bible. That's just a fact. You don't know Christian doctrine. You don't know the foundations of this. You don't know the history of this. Instead, you are a cafeteria modern Christian who's trying to make sense of the world, which is fine, and saying, wonder if God could be like this. Maybe God's like this. What method do you have,
No.
John? John, what method do you have to identify the characteristics of God?
If it's beautiful and true. Like if I watch a story and I think that, wow, like I've experienced that, like I'm receiving God's wisdom in the universe. And I do that not just with watching a movie. I do that with spending time in nature and like just like turning off my mind and letting insights flow.
What is the justification for concluding that because you find something beautiful and because you find something true, that means you have in fact found something that is God?
Huh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that was the question I asked first. You avoided.
Wait, sorry. Can you say that again?
That was the question I asked first that you avoided. When I say, what methodology do you have for determining that you've discovered something about God? And you say, if it's beautiful and true, it's God. You haven't told me anything. You might as well have said, if it's pink and purple and veiny, it's God.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that it's something that I can rely on to move through death, essentially.
No, sir. Yeah. What about recognize what? Stop, listen.
Let's just think about what he said. So his methodology, he calls it a methodology, is that if something is beautiful and true, then it must be godly. Effectively, these are attributes of God, that something is both beautiful and true. Obviously, beauty is purely subjective. Truth should be objective. And then he says that this helps him to move through, if it helps him to move through death. So beauty, truth helps him to move through death. Sounds very, very sort of vague and poorly defined. Let's see if he can sharpen it up a bit.
Listen, the fact that you find something beautiful or you are convinced that something is true, how does that directly tie to evidence for a God?
Because everything that's view and truthful has a single unity, and that single unity, I mean that's I guess that'd be it. Yeah.
No, I asked how. Wow, I'm going to try this one last time.
Okay, so he's saying that everything that is beautiful and true has a single unity. Prove that. Demonstrate it. It's just a claim.
I asked, what is it about finding something that you find beautiful and you are convinced is true, how does that demonstrate evidence for God?
Can you imagine that? This is somebody who is a theist, is a Christian, has got this idea about a metaphorical and an actual God. And when asked how he knows anything about God at all, he says, well, anything that's beautiful and true. And then when pressed further and asked to make the connection, how does that demonstrate that there is a God? He just goes completely silent. And he staked his entire worldview on this, and he can't think of anything to say.
I guess I'm confused. Like, what kind of evidence are you looking for?
You know, when Christians ask this question of me, my reply to them is, whatever evidence convinced you that it's true, that's the evidence that I'm asking for, because I presume that the reasons that you would have for believing this will be the best reasons that you could possibly find, the best evidence that you could possibly find. That's the evidence that I want, regardless of what kind it is, whether it's philosophical, whether it's empirical evidence, whatever kind of evidence, I don't care. It's just the evidence that convinced you to believe this. That's all. But it's a bad sign when somebody says, I mean, it's like if somebody went before the, I don't know, a science conference and made a claim about black holes, and all they did was present the claims, didn't present any evidence. And the committee asked, where's your evidence? And then the scientist said, well, what kind of evidence do you want? It would be just completely ridiculous. So it just tells me that he hasn't got any reasons. He hasn't got any. It's just a belief that he wants to hold, and he's invented some reasons, and he can't make the connection. Beauty and truth. It's a cliche. We hear it time and time again. God is beauty. God is truth. God is love. How do you make that connection? Why can't beauty, truth, and love be qualities without there being a God? Why does there need to be a God for these to be valid attributes and qualities? It doesn't make any sense.
Jesus
for me,
fucking
that
Christ,
is the
Jonathan, stop talking. Listen, I'm going to make this as simple as I
My
possibly.
name is just John.
Stop.
It's just no Jonathan.
Sorry, John.
Suddenly that's an important point. Whether he's John or Jonathan is the most important point when he's been finally cornered and exposed as somebody who's got no good reasons for being a theist. Suddenly, whether he's John or Jonathan, I mean, it would be like me. My name is spelled S-T-U-A-R-T. It'd be like me saying, "Oh, you spelled my name wrong. It's not S-T-E-W. It's S-T-U-A." And no, it's a game, set, and match.
Shut up and listen. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. And if you still don't get it, I have nothing that I can help for you. The reason I called you Jonathan is because you kept mentioning Jonathan Peugeot. All right.
Fine.
If you're going to say, I have found evidence for X, anything, you have to show a line that connects the existence of evidence with it being evidence for a proposition. So if you're going to say Arden is a mass murderer, you have to have physical evidence that shows that Arden has actually killed a bunch of.
That is a really kind of sick and bizarre example that Matt is appealing to there. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's keep going.
People. And so when I say, what evidence do you have? What methodology do you have that demonstrates that Arden is a mass murderer? And you say, well, she's smart and hot. And then I say, what does something being smart and hot have to do with it being a mass murderer? That shouldn't confuse anybody. The point is, there's nothing that you or anybody else has identified about being smart and or hot that makes someone a mass murderer. So what is it about something being beautiful or true that you claim confirms the existence of a God, is necessarily tied to a God? Are you suggesting that it is impossible to
Great, he understands.
Find something beautiful or true and for that to not be evidence for God?
I think that everything beautiful and true has a relationship to God. And
I know you think that. The question you don't is, why do you think that everything that is
Sorry, I thought he got it, but he doesn't.
Beautiful and true, it demonstrates God? That's the question. I don't know how many fucking ways I can explain this to you.
when animals are spending a lot of time like building something beautiful, and even us because we spend a lot of time doing that, like I think that what they're doing is not just like the only reason I think
John,
that makes sense that they're doing that. Yeah, yes,
Yeah, the only thing that makes sense is that if an animal's building something that's beautiful, it could only possibly make sense if there's an actual God. Well, there's still no connection there.
I swear I will drop you like a hot rock if you go off on a divergent path again. I don't give a shit what you think about what animals are doing. I'm asking the very specific question. If someone recognizes something as beautiful, is that, and how is that evidence for God, and what makes it evidence for God? I know that you think beauty is necessarily tied to God. What justification, what arguments supported by evidence, what heuristic model, what theory can you present that ties X is beautiful to therefore X is evidence for God?
got you. Well, I think that my mind is structured by the patterns of the universe from the ground up,
Goodbye.
and I think that
Goodbye.
when something
Goodbye.
manifests as something.
Yeah, do you notice how he just goes on to a new set of claims? So he's now moved from the beauty and truth claim as proof for the existence of God to another claim about his mind. He's just making a new set of claims, which he won't be able to back up either, which is why Matt is saying goodbye.
Beautiful.
Goodbye.
That's
Goodbye,
just the way
John.
it is. It's not my
Okay,
choice.
that's just the way it is. You know how else it is? Goodbye.
It's just the way it is. No further justification. It's just the way it is. Well, I could say there's no God. It's just the way it is. Okay, well, that's it. That's the end of the call. They've hung up on him. And that's the end of my reaction on that call. Hope you enjoyed that. Comments below. Thank you very much. Bye for now.